Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard Yale School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I'll recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi, my name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and a current PhD student at the world's #1 School of Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I also earned a dual Master of Public Health and Master of Business Administration on a fully funded SOMA Scholar Scholarship here at the Bloomberg School after gaining admission to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the rest of the top schools. So, tell a friend to also tell a friend. Come along with me by subscribing to this channel as I share all the techniques and strategies for putting together a strong application package and hear from experiences from some of the most successful international scholars. I'll also invite program directors, admission committee members to share insights into what it takes to get into their program.
Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard Yale School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I'll recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi, my name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and a current PhD student at the world's #1 School of Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I also earned a dual Master of Public Health and Master of Business Administration on a fully funded SOMA Scholar Scholarship here at the Bloomberg School after gaining admission to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the rest of the top schools. So, tell a friend to also tell a friend. Come along with me by subscribing to this channel as I share all the techniques and strategies for putting together a strong application package, and hear from experiences from some of the most successful international scholars. I'll also invite program directors, admission committee members to share insights into what it takes to get into their program.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and your host for today's Stories to That Inspires program. I'm currently a PhD student at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I'm also a proud MPH MBA SOMA Scholar alum. Today, it's we are doing something different. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to some of our captivating stories, the Scholars Table stories that inspire. We are truly privileged to be in the company of some extraordinary folks. A man whose journey is a testament to the resilience and transformative power of perseverance. I've gotten to know Dr. Agyapong through LinkedIn, and I was truly impressed by how much he has achieved despite all the obstacles in his life. And once in a while, it is necessary for us to tell these stories for the young ones to also pick some motivating messages from them. Some of us we didn't get it very smoothly, but when you see us from afar, you think that we got everything on a silver platter, but that isn't the case. Dr. Japan has journeyed from his initial rejection from uh, medical school in Ghana, as many of my colleagues that started biological science with me in Ghana. But he never gave up. He continued with his perseverance, got admission to Harvard Medical School. After that, went on to Yale to do his residency, which is remarkable, you know. So today we are going to delve into, a conversation and look at the chronicles that, led to his path from Ghana to the US. And through this dialogue, we aim to understand the nuances of his experience, the challenges he faced, and also help all of us, learn something that can be helpful in our journey. Without much ado, let me quickly invite our guest, Dr. Japon. You're live. Welcome to the Scholars Table.
Wow.
It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Banda Khalifa, right? Help me say that right if I'm wrong. Dr. Banda Khalifa?
Yes. Oh, you can just call me Banda. I
Banda,
think you're
okay.
muted. Oh,
Oh, Joe, please.
yeah. Oh,
um,
yeah. You can increase your volume a little. Um,
is this okay? I just
yes,
didn't
yes,
have
yes.
it.
I can hear you.
Like, is it
Yes.
better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And good afternoon, everyone that's watching. I see there's about 15 of us here. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to be on this scholars table. Uh, I think you remember you and I had our first conversation was messages that we exchanged on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and I saw what you've been doing to really like. support people in the diaspora who are looking for opportunities
Hmm.
outside of their home countries. And I thought, wow, this is what I want to do when I grow up. So I'm very inspired also to
Hmm.
join you. Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for
I
having me.
mean, yeah, yeah. Um, we are all trying to do our part to help the young ones, attain their maximum potential. We know that we truly have the potential. We have the potential. It's just the lack of mentorship, the lack of guidance that is truly worrying us. So yes, as you rightly said, we currently have about 18 uh, watching us on YouTube. We have about 10 on Facebook, and we have about, I think, 25 on LinkedIn. So we're having more than 50 people tune in to watch us today. Um, so let's start from from the roots, from the stories that people want to hear from the roots. Can you kind of paint a picture of your early life in Ghana? I'm not talking about at a university level, but you know basic education and secondary education. Can run us through that chapter?
Mm, thanks. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who's watching on the other media or the other platforms. Yes, and I'm glad that we're starting from here because at the end of the day, that's how I see myself. That everything that I've been and that I've been privileged with was because of those roots. Um, so I grew up in Ghana. I was born in Kofiasi. Kofiasi is in the Ashanti region. About I don't know my geography or my math so well. So, I would say maybe 20 miles, if even that far. It's not that far actually. 10 to 20 miles from, between Mampo and Kofiasi. And it was a very, big extended family, right?
Hmm.
Born to a people's teacher. My mom was trained. What I understand was to like post-secondary education. So you
Yeah.
might say high school graduate who got some other, maybe started community college here.
Hmm.
Uh, Probably did not get earn a degree as it is, but she met a teacher that I would come to know as a very very academician, strong academician, John Sapon, who was my dad. My mom, met him while she was a people teacher, and they had me as their second born. So I was the second biologically of two kids,
Hmm.
and I've grown up with a huge um, family that you'll find it hard to distinguish who's biological and who's not, and it's that kind of communal setting that actually
Yeah.
has kept me going throughout. So in Kofiasi, I started off kindergarten, and I'm deliberately bringing that in because I got an opportunity to go back in January, and I went back to Kofiasi to see this school, so called like kindergarten or daycare,
Yeah.
however we call it, the fancy names we call it here. Kindercare.
Hmm.
Our version of kindercare was, you wake up, your mom has to go to the farm or go to the market. They want you to get some education. There are these missionary churches, and at that point it was, I think they call it Basel, so it's probably Presbyterian, affiliated.
Yeah.
And so they bring us there, and you come when you're going and you're bringing your own yams, like fresh yams,
Yeah.
plantain, the vegetables with you. Somebody else is gonna bring, something else, right? And they cook it, and in the afternoon they split it among you, and you eat it.
Yeah.
And I'm reflecting on that piece and realizing, wait, I think this is what I've been trying to get back to. This is the kind of communal,
Living.
innovation,
Hmm.
patient care, communal educational opportunities that I'm trying to create. That's how I started. So I started in Kofiasi and then had to move. to join my auntie, who became my surrogate mother, in Mampong, Ashanti, to start most of my primary school. So I did primary 1 through 3 in Mampong,
Mm-hmm.
the SDMA, and then had to go to Kumasi. By this time, my mother, my story is very interesting, and that's going to come up sometime. My mother had to bring me to Nigeria in her early life.
Okay.
There was a migration of Ghanaian teachers and skilled workers to Nigeria in the early 80s. So she brings me there, like, as a new, pretty much born infant. She sends me back. What I'm realizing is probably between age 3 and 5,
Mm-hmm.
to live with her sister, because with a child that young, you cannot hustle and be successful in Nigeria, right? She's selling bread. She's, hustling, as it were. So she has to ship me with a friend, so that I come back to Mampong to live with my mother now, my auntie. I call her mother. Still, she is. And so I started class 1 through 3 in Mampong. And by this time, my mother pretty much comes back from Nigeria and wants to start life with however much she was able to make. So she wants to settle in Kumasi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And so now, okay, let's make sure the kids can get some education. So myself and my younger brother, we had to go join her in Kumasi. So that's where I go back. I got repeated in class 3, and from there on is, Adventist Preparatory School, APS in Tafo.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
it all started.
Yeah, it's such an inspiring story, and I consider myself as somebody who also went through similar path, but Kofia say it's even a more interesting story than mine, because I was thinking I grew up from the village. I don't know if you've heard of Abofo in Ashanti
Oh,
region. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's where I started. But Kofi Asif may be a whole different level. But
Well,
so that is very very interesting. And then from there you ended up in Prempeh College. At least you got you got some improvement along the way.
hey,
So how was it? How was your time in Prempeh College? Like.
oh, it was good. And I think it's where, like you said, someone, Kofiasi boy, finds himself in Prempeh College. How did that happen? I remember specifically when we had to pick our schools, and I always bless her heart, my mom, right? Who's in the UK now, who pretty much just believed me and left me to actually make some of these choices as a young kid.
Mhm.
And I picked Prempeh College as my first choice before I went to some other options that I think most of them thought I would pick. Prempeh was known to be for the smartest and or the most connected.
Yes.
I knew definitely that I wasn't the most connected, and I don't know that I was the smartest, but I I tried to work as hard as I could, right? And so when I come back home, I help cook, do the things I have to do, and then weekends I don't play with my books when I had a chance.
Yeah.
And so I remember during Christmas when she was like, "What schools did you pick?" I'm like, "I took Prempeh College and school A, B, C." She's like, "Oh, me the minister, me do a to your bribe, oh."
Yeah. So.
I'm not, and I
Yeah.
cannot pay any other like legacy fees or a bribe, right? So
Uh-huh.
you better know how hard you're working to have chosen Prempeh College. And that's how it started. I did science, and I loved it there, and I got a chance to actually also, I say, be just me. I loved singing, so I was a choir prefect and was elected like the choir prefect, which was the first time they had done something like that. And I felt like I was able to do science and still like really serve God, serve the community in ways that
Yeah.
meant a lot.
Great. 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 So I mean, I have a rough picture of how your post-secondary school went.
Mm.
So how did the whole decision of going into uh, pharmacy begin? Did you at that point think about going to medical school, or was it the fact that you truly wanted to do pharmacy that is why you ended up there?
It's the first. The answer is A. The first option. That one, I did not know about pharmacy, and it's sad that I say that, but it has meant a lot that I realized that I did not know about pharmacy until time came for me to pick between programs.
Hmm.
And for those of you who are listening and are not familiar with our system in Ghana, we're similar to the European system and specifically the UK, where you go to secondary education, which is similar to high school. Even in high school, you would have committed to a certain career path, like a
Yes.
STEM or non-STEM,
Hmm.
right, or business. And so as a STEM, your options, even though are not limited, what we knew more about in Ghana were a doctor, a doctor, a doctor, and a doctor, and engineer, and then you go to the specific courses: chemistry, physics, biochemistry, and everything.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I did not know who a doctor was. First generation. My mom started calling me that way earlier. So okay, I'm gonna be a doctor. Until I had to choose, and thank God for people in my church community. I'm sure they're listening. Odiko, Prof. Odiko, what I call him, and then Safo Kantanka, um, who picked me under their wings and started showing me because they had been in the university system.
Hmm.
And so he's like, you know what? There's a course called pharmacy, and it's all the people who do it do well. You get to serve patients, and I'm like, okay, what is this one? That's how I applied without knowing much about pharmacy.
Hmm.
So I applied you would rank your program, so medicine, pharmacy, engineer, engineering, physics, you
Okay.
know and I don't even know what else I picked. And so I actually I keep telling people that they gave me pharmacy.
Okay.
you know They gave me pharmacy because I was rejected for medical school, or was for medicine, and
Yes.
it wasn't that I didn't have the grades or the way to get in there.
Hmm.
So that was a big blow. And so I started first year of pharmacy school, still feeling like, wait, if I could apply again, I will apply again. And I had relatives who were actually like trying to help me connect with people, see if I could reapply, even as a fee paying student,
Yes.
where I would have to pay more,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But by the time I'm in second semester of pharmacy school, something clicked in pharmacy school. And I'm like, wait, maybe I was so scared of pharmacy, even though I didn't know much about it. I was so scared because I felt like I didn't like chemistry, but I did well in chemistry otherwise. And by this time, I'm doing well in chemistry. I'm getting faculty who are so interested and are like really urging me on. And I'm like, well, this is it. I've got to apply myself.
Yeah.
And it went well from then. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, as you said, I don't know if your time there was interview that you had to go through, or it was simply uh, based on your grades that they selected for medical school. Um, and did you at any point consider biological science? I'm sure around your time there was a biological science in University of Ghana. Did you consider it at all?
I did. I did. And it came down to really the means. Because at that point, I was a Siano boy. We had only been lucky that our family and living situation had improved gradually to a point where, okay, now we had stable housing. A couple of uncles and aunties who had been hustling, outside of Ghana, had
Hmm.
come to actually really then, support my education and everything. So Live and Kumasi would have, meant a lot more, financial as well
Yeah.
as like other burdens to my family. So I ended up not even choosing Legon, and I think it was also for the fear, maybe even the self doubt of, huh, what if I don't get into medicine at Legon? It could be worse, right? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
give me
Yeah.
everything they want. So I
Yeah.
better pick something that feels like close to what I want to do,
Yeah.
and maybe would be a little bit more guaranteed. So I didn't actually apply to Legon. no, I did not apply to Legon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was a calculated risk because as you were, biological science is, Champions League. But now they've taken away that Champions League system. So it's also straight admission, just like tech. Yeah, so that one is either medical school. So we used to have a slogan like uh, medical or suicide, right? So once you're in biological sciences, once you're in the biological sciences, it's either medical school or suicide, right? And if you don't get into medical school, the next for you is maybe nutrition or biochemistry, or and it wasn't a pleasant experience. So yeah, so you did your pharmacy, 4 years of pharmacy in tech. Um, but at what point did you decide that you know um, this pharmacy is not for me? I still need to pursue my passion of medicine or medical school.
Mm.
Did you get like a particular advice, or did somebody tell you that, Japan, if you're really interested in doing medicine, I think you need to look beyond Ghana? Did you get that particular advice from anybody?
Uh, it wasn't as direct or even as specific as that. But I think the advice and the cues that I picked up were, if you are driven and really want to be more than what is offered you
Hmm.
or what seems available to you, um, within the context of your social connections, financial means, academic capabilities, whatever you call it, right? And if you're driven and you really want to move beyond the system that was there in Ghana, and I can imagine still there in Ghana now, I know that, and I had a couple of professors, very, very respectful and supportive mentors, were like, well, don't listen to the people who want to keep you here,
Hmm.
right? So that was the advice, non-advice. It was like, you know uh, be 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 self-driven, self-directed. And the reason that that happened was that, I had a chance to come do a work study here, my final year of pharmacy school, actually third year getting into final year.
Okay.
And by this time I was the president of the Ghana Pharmaceutical Students Association. So I came in, spent almost like 6 to 8 weeks, and then realized, wait, there's some opportunities here. I came in and I worked for Burger King, didn't really do much academic work. I was like, if I have this chance again, I'm gonna have to really think about what I'm doing with my career.
Yeah.
So the options then was, they were just starting some, PhD, MPhil programs that would actually transition you into a PhD in Ghana. And I was recruited to stay on as a TA for pharmacology. That
Okay.
was my one thing that I love so much. And it was like, okay, stay on. We could, then you could get a PhD with that. And it was enticing. My research was interesting, but truly, it was even people that I respected within the same department who were like, well, if you really are hoping to do more than this, maybe this is not the thing to do, or the place
Yeah.
to be at this time. And so that's when it's sweet that, okay, I'm going to go out there and hustle. That would be my second chance to really consider medicine. But even then, I came in and was really thinking, either go back to pharmacy to get a PharmD and maybe consider a PhD, because I've been so interested still in
Yeah.
research. But it came to a point when I was here that I'm like, wait, if I'm going to really make this big move to come to a new land and hustle and everything, um, it better be what I had
You really
originally
want to do?
dreamed of,
Yes. Hmm.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it.
That makes sense. Uh, I mean, I'm sure you, after you finish your pharmacy and you came to the US and you started your academic journey in US, you might have seen some differences, right? how do you see your academic experiences in Ghana if you compare them with, l- let's say, your first MS degree? I realize you also have an MS degree. So if you compare that experience with what you experience in Ghana, um, how would you compare them? Um, how did the Ghana education build you up to be able to succeed at that level?
Mm. And I would say, I think my answer would I think it was more from an individualized strategy,
Mm-hmm.
right? That I came to understand more about my educational journey, my style of learning, my learning, deficits and everything, right? I think it became clearer to me here in the US. And I can share more when this it's appropriate. But what I learned was one, I had gone through an educational system that really forced me to actually teach myself in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know about other folks who went through like science in high school and or other like hardcore science or other majors, whatever the major was in Ghana. People call it chew and pour, right? You would be lucky that what you chewed was nutritious, was going to actually help you really learn and
Yeah.
flourish, right? So the material is there, right? You're gonna hear someone either read the notes to you just verbatim. You copy it, go read it, and then they come and ask you questions that sometimes feel like, wait, was that thing in the notes?
Or was I expected to know this?
Yeah, right. Wait, did I
Yeah.
miss that lecture? But I also thank God so much, right, for my faculty, the Faculty of Pharmacy at K University.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were and are still like one of the most advanced like faculty that I interacted with, even like compared to some of the faculty I've worked with here and interacted with,
Yeah.
especially the Department of Pharmacology. I remember there were a couple of guys there, Professor Wood, Professor Obri Danso, man of beloved memory, um, George Kufuor, also of beloved memory. And these guys were the guys who actually would give us quizzes. They were like multiple choice. They were set up to be similar to what I think is even better than the USMLE,
Yeah.
right? I think it's even better than the NCLEX that people do here because my wife is a nurse and when I sit around some of her nursing like testing, I'm like, oh, this is what these guys were doing then. Because they had this like these question types of questions where they would say they'll give you a statement and a reason and a
Mm.
linker like because or like some form of linker.
Yeah.
And you got to get the right answer and say statement one is true and or false, statement two is true and or false, and they are related. So you have true, true, related, true, true, unrelated, true, false, relate. And for you to go through that kind of thinking, you
Yeah.
realize that it's just chew and pour.
Yeah. Yeah. You have
And
to
what
know
helped me
every.
more,
You have to know every line, every comma, every dot. Yeah.
yeah.
That. Yeah.
And I realized that even in their case, right, besides knowing every dot, you really have to be able to then apply. So
Mm-hmm.
it was applied learning, applied science. And I noticed that, as time went on, some of the other faculty started trying to do that. And that to me felt different. I never really found any like in graduate school, most of it is also similar. It's like chew pour, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that framework helped me a lot to date. So now, like, I'm able to really analyze, like research heavy material and or even general material
Yeah.
and really ask those questions. Is this true? Is it false? How is this related? What questions does it bring up?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a gift that they gave me. And I
Yeah.
found it useful also in medical school and in my practice.
Great. Great. Um. So one thing that one theme that usually comes up when I interact with folks back home is the element of research, right? I know, like, back in Ghana, you go through medical school with very little exposure to research. But in this part of in this part of the world, research is crucial. It's weighted more. Um, did you see research fit into your journey? Like, did research help you in any way to, for example, get in some of these top programs?
Yes. Yeah, and I say that categorically, um, because I probably didn't know how much it did when I was going in. I knew that, hey, it was important in some ways, but I also came to learn that there were some of my colleagues who did not necessarily have like too much research,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we all really made it into those top programs, as you call it, both in Harvard and at Yale. But what I realized was that, like, whatever you found yourself doing, you have to, one, ask yourself, why am I doing it, right? What am I doing, right? So, like, the skills that you're learning or using, you
Yeah.
got to be able to actually know that and describe it to an ordinary person. But the more important piece in the last bit is, um, what did I learn, right? What did it give me? What did it teach me that I'm going to bring into your program? That, like, you better take a chance on me, even if my MCAT was lower, even if I'm not a your privileged
Mm-hmm.
candidate, or even if, right? And for me, that, I think, became the strategy that helped me, so that, like, research played a huge part for me. It was out of necessity and my own hustle. So when I was in I was finishing up my master's at UMass Lowell. I applied for an internship, and I think I wrote this up a couple of days ago, in a medical startup company. They had announced it for undergraduates, but I'm like, hey, why not? So I applied, because at this point I was actually, I was working overnight as a security person, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess I placed that on a medical school application. I There were other avenues I could use to earn money, and academic credential, and professional network, and that seemed appropriate. So I took that chance, and this guy also took chance on me, Dr. Howard Laurie, and I owe him so much
Yeah.
appreciation.
Yeah.
And having taken that chance, right? So it was a medical device startup in biomechanics, pretty much like mechanical engineering, using electrical stuff. And here's a
Yeah.
pharmacy
Mm-hmm.
major
Yeah.
doing biological sciences, taking this role, right? So it wasn't what I knew before coming in. It was what I was prepared to learn, right, going into that, and also how much I was, prepared to bring what I knew already
Yeah.
into that. 'Cause I knew my chemistry. So when I was, like, testing, like, blood products on this new blood pump for, like, dialysis patients, I would understand, right, why there's hemolysis if I put so much of, like, this chemical in there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm setting up, like, these, like, endovascular embolic devices, to see how long it takes for them to deploy if we place them in someone with, say, a ruptured aneurysm,
Mm-hmm.
right? I understood some of the chemistry, the electrical issues there.
Yeah.
And so quickly I was able to catch up and build, like, prototypes on table, and then got an abstract from that,
Mm-hmm.
got a publication from that. I actually got two abstracts, got to present at, like, one of our, like, a regional, like, small business pitch.
Yeah.
So at this point, I've gotten pay from it as an intern,
Yeah.
right? I've gotten knowledge and skills, a mentor, a lifelong mentor, and I've also gotten, like, publications and abstracts and presentations. Like, who wouldn't want this?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I approached research, right? And I think it's the idea of, if you're gonna do research, don't just do it because everyone is doing it, or because you really just want to do it. Figure out, why am I going to do it? What skills am I going to be
Mm-hmm.
looking for? And as I'm doing it, what am I learning? And be able to then describe that to your next employer, your next academic destination, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you paint a picture of a non-linear path, right? Oftentimes people feel, oh, uh, you know, your 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 destination must be, or your path, the path to your destination must be pretty much very smooth or very linear, but it isn't linear, right? So you do pharmacy, you come to the US, do MS, do a couple of side hustles, went into a totally different field to go and get some research experience, and through that you were able to get some publications that I believe was very instrumental in your medical school application. Um, so how was your experience? How was your experience at Harvard like? I know people would want to know, like, so you went to medical school at Harvard. How is it different? I know back at Tech, you might have had a couple of colleagues in medical school or a couple of friends in medical school. Um, how do you think that experience is different from Ghana, or how was your experience back at Harvard, and how was the preparation like first? What resources or requirements did you have to fulfill in order to even apply to medical school? So
Mm,
that for those who are online, if anybody is looking into maybe switching tracks, or perhaps finish something in Ghana and then figure out where the next step is, the person will know clearly these are the major requirements that need to be fulfilled.
mm. Great. So if I can break it down, right? So I will share a bit about how the preparation, how did I meet the requirements, what resources do I
Hmm.
use, or
Yeah,
what strategy, and then what was the experience at Harvard like, and if I could imagine how it would have looked like in Ghana,
yeah,
how different did it feel to me? Is that like what you're asking me?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, first on the preparation side, right? Um, this is a long story, but I would say that everything, like you said, I like the way you put it, that I paint a non-linear path, right? Or maybe I even actually paint what seems to be maybe a linear or a path that was clear and planned and strategized,
Yeah,
whatever it was. And I want to actually make sure I dispel any such superpower um, like picture, because I had no clue what I was doing then. I'm sorry, guys, that it's gonna feel disappointing.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I,
that is the reality. That is the truth. One advisor told me, as a young professional or as a student, you take anything that comes at you. You don't have to, be super selective, right? You're looking for opportunities early on in your career. Say yes to everything, right? And that is exactly what you're saying.
yeah, and it's what I'm saying. I think if you asked me again, right, I would take what your advisor said, right, and say still you got to be intentional,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That you may not have to say yes to everything and anything that comes in the cloth of opportunity,
Hmm.
right? And I think opportunity is only opportunity when you are prepared for it, right? And when it serves you and your purpose, right? And you also serve its purpose
Hmm.
in a lot. Because for me, when I came in, the opportunities that came my way, I would say even breaking it into two. Hey, I could go in. I got admission to go do a pharmacy degree, like a PharmD, and it would have been 2.5 years. I
Yeah.
had classmates who came the same year like me in the same classroom, who went and did that, and have been working probably the past 13, 14 years that I have been hustling, still trying
Yeah.
to trade,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
imagine the socioeconomic gap that they're
Yeah.
giving me now. So
Yeah.
I'm in the dust, right?
Yeah.
But I do not regret any of that, because at any point, as we're talking about this, as I'm getting opportunity to reflect on that non-linear path, I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, these were the skills that I built.
Hmm.
These are the people that I actually have come to learn. And this is the purpose that God was really preparing me for. And that last piece is probably much, much more clearer to me
Yeah.
as I I just finished my residency, right? So preparation, I had to take a practical approach, right? So I decided not to do that pharmacy. I was tempted, like I, pretty much got in, but I didn't have any co-signer for that.
Okay.
So scratch pharmacy. Well, because if I'm not going to start making this money anytime soon, because I can't get anybody to vouch that I'll make the money and pay it back,
Yeah.
let me see what medicine has. And so with medicine, the path or the interest was, I wish I had had a flow chart. I'll try and send that at some point. The two paths were go for a second bachelor's degree or do what they call post baccalaureate, pre-med, non-traditional track.
Okay.
And that path, that's what I took, the post bac pre-med path. And that also had its own like sub paths.
Mm-hmm.
One of my options was, hey, you either go for a master's degree that's like structured, they're going to prepare you with MCAT and other things. And really, usually these medical schools that see potential in you and want to really get your portfolio better for their class. I don't think I applied to any of those because when I even reached out to some of those programs, they made it feel like, wait, you're going to need a lot more, right?
Yeah.
And so at one point, I was like, okay, maybe I should go for that second bachelor's degree because my colleague, it was my classmate in Prempeh College, classmate in pharmacy school, he had like a co-signer, luckily, and gotten into the program at Columbia University, School of Graduate Studies,
Yeah.
a general. So they would have you do 60 more additional credits as a pre-med. So he went in, told me, I applied and got in, and now who's going to co-sign my loans? Nobody.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, now it's just going to have to be a way that allows me to actually get loans on my own terms or some way. So that's how I decided to do a graduate program because then you could do the grad plus loans, right?
Okay.
And I remember when I was grappling with this, I don't know if I've shared this any publicly, but it's okay that I share. I had a gentleman who I met when I was working at 7-Eleven, and he became a mentor, gave me like a volunteer status to visit him in his lab at MIT. So
Okay.
at this point, like this is the only person who knows this vision and seems to be connected to this vision. Can I ask him for to co-sign my loans? And if there's anything I regret in life, like that's one of them. Like that I did that. Right.
Yeah.
Because what I learned then was wow, I'm asking like, someone who's only taking interest in my professional like life to actually mingle their finances with me
Yeah.
in a way that is unethical, unprofessional, but that was just me. That was where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Right? And I hope that they know that that was really where I was coming from. And I'm lucky that he took me and sat me down and said this. He said, God's way, God's work, when done God's way, will never lack its supply.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I switched my own framework and said, hey, grad school. So I decided to go get a master's degree at University of Buffalo because I was able to then afford loans at that point.
Yeah.
uh, Needed to transfer to University of Massachusetts Lowell because I joined the Army Reserve and my unit was back in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right at this point, I'm using student loans, working, or part time at CVS while I was in Buffalo. Sometimes, like I'll go in and be a bit of a server at like major events.
Yeah.
And you serve and you get a little bit
You get
cash.
something, Charlie.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's how I'm hustling. And then I moved back here to transfer to Massachusetts to transfer and finish my graduate degree. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm doing these graduate courses. They at least include a lot of highly advanced biological science courses,
Yeah.
biochemistry at advanced level. So maybe that
Mm-hmm.
even satisfies some organic chemistry there. So now, how do I satisfy physics? I never did physics college level, so now I had to register at Harvard Extension School to take that physics one and two. Chemistry, I'm like, I've done so much chemistry in pharmacy school, but I don't know if these guys are going to respect it a lot. As the guy who actually was the pharmacy guy, like
Yeah.
organic chemistry, I was the guy, right? And pharmacology by God's grace, but they're not. because the system is like what it is. So
Yeah.
I had to retake chemistry,
Chemistry again.
Harvard Extension. I took English literature while I was in grad school. So I just had to strategize and make it work and make sense.
Yeah.
And it only came together when I was just reviewing my medical school application packet recently with one mentee. I'm like, wait, I actually ended up only doing 23 undergraduate courses, like 23 credits.
Credits. Yeah.
So that means my undergraduate credits from Ghana must have counted for something,
Yeah.
right? Because with that, I only did 43 credits of graduate level coursework. So the undergraduate courses that I did in Ghana must have counted for something. But the missing pieces that I think I needed was the strategy of, hey, these are the things I need to show to demonstrate an equivalent US academic capacity to become a doctor, to practice medicine and succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the strategy that I'm hoping that's what I'm trying to apply myself to do with a lot of other mentees now.
Yeah. Yeah. So for individuals, who are in other parts of the world, let's say Ghana, Nigeria, and elsewhere, um, who are non-medics and looking at your story and saying, how can I, take a similar path? What advice would you give them? What strategy do you think will be helpful for them now that, for example, they are doing their undergrad, or they just finished their undergrad and they are trying to weigh their options?
And I think, yeah, my advice is one, do, do not try to walk in my steps.
Hmm.
Oops. But no, I say that very intentionally because I don't think I would even try to walk in those steps again.
Again, yeah.
Because what I've learned from those steps were that, hey, I probably could have used less than 7 years postgraduate, right, to be a strong candidate, right?
Hmm.
It took me almost 8 years before I got into medical school. And it wasn't because I applied and had to reapply. I didn't apply. It was one shot, got like interviews to 13 schools, all the schools that I applied to,
Yeah.
except Vanderbilt. Um, Decided to interview at 10, got into all 10 schools that I interviewed at, right?
Hmm.
So the credentials weren't as bad, but I told you already that it was 23 undergraduate US undergraduate credits, 43 US graduate credits, some military experience,
Yeah.
even as a medic. It was graduate courses, research experience. But the more important piece that I keep telling people, and I'm trying to do with everyone that I meet with, is let's step back and ask ourselves, why are you trying to do this?
Hmm.
Because even if you were trying to walk in my path and it looks easy, it's 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 an opportunity cost.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of opportunity. Yeah.
And you're gonna have parents asking you, hey, so when are you working again? When are you getting married again? When are you having a kid again? When you
Uh,
everybody's buying a land here. Have you bought any yet? Like bugger, you know? So and those things alone can challenge what you're doing so much that you might
yeah.
just get disrupted.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
That
most
is
important.
is very true.
Mhm.
That is very true. I mean, the expectation, and where we are coming from is a bit different. Like,
Mhm.
everybody cares about everybody. So even an extended family member can call you and ask you, na school, baby, why are you still in school? High skill in school, Charlie. It's not easy. Yeah, it's a lot of opportunity cost. But I'm looking at the young ones, say level 100, level 200, who are trying to strategize and put some plans together. Because I know that there are several people who truly want to do medicine, but
Yeah.
because of the lack of resources we have back at home, because of the limited resources or the limited spaces, they all divert to fields that are no interest for them. right? So some of those people, one pathway is for them to finish their undergrad and then go into the postgraduate medical training in Ghana. Um, but if you know your your convoluted path can be straightened a bit. If, for example, if you were to go back, at the first time that you came to the US, what would you have done differently to smoothen your path a little bit?
Yes. Yes. And that's what I'm trying to really do and get to. First is still figure out why you're doing what you're doing. Why
Hmm.
medicine? Because sometimes the reasons we are actually trying to do medicine could be the core human capacity to help,
Yeah,
human um, 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 wanting to help people, right? And so you ask yourself, what would that mean if it wasn't in a white coat, in with an MD, right? I'm only setting the alternative, and I am working with students now who are thinking about things this way, and I'm like, I want you to stay on and actually want apply to medical school because you have everything it takes.
it
So
takes.
that's the same thing I'll tell you guys. You have everything it takes to become a doctor, however long it takes and whatever it takes. But you have to keep asking yourself, what are you going to stand on when mommy comes keep asking you, Kufin, when are you going to really start working? Right? You want to be able to come back and still look at that thing and say, yes, it's because of this reason,
Yeah.
right? This is why I'm going to take an extra course, or I'm going to retake that MCAT, or I'm going to look for opportunities and go to the US, because you realize that, especially if you are in Ghana now, right? The I was only lucky that I got that chance to come here.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think sometimes then you can put yourself in a way that luck comes to you, and
Yeah.
that is preparation.
Yeah.
So if you're in undergrad now, what are you doing to actually put yourself
Prepare
in a
yourself.
more competitive state? Prepare yourself for global medical education
Hmm.
and not just Ghana, right? So by the time you are in high school and know that you want to go into medicine, you have to start learning more about what what does it take to become a doctor in Ghana, to apply into all the medical schools. Are there five now or four?
Yeah, UHAS, UDS, UCC, Legon, UDS, and there are a couple
Right,
of private institutions as well, like three private medical schools.
right.
Yeah.
So it's much better, exponentially better
Hmm.
than I did,
Yeah.
right? So that means your chances are higher. And this is where you have to start asking yourself, one, you need to know why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, number one. Two, what do you need is the coursework. You got to ace those coursework, like study like there's nothing else to do. Right? And so you study if that's all the thing you have to do. If life and it needs require that you take some time between your undergrad and reapply and do, because I have a colleague, a Japan, Kwabene Japan with same name,
Hmm.
who actually after graduating from tech went to UGMS to do the post baccalaureate path, and he's graduated now. Will be
Yeah.
joining us pretty soon at Yale. So the point for me is you want to prepare yourself as early as your high school, college, whenever you really know that you want to become a doctor.
Yeah.
But have a way around, because this path is so long. Figure out, like, set functional like destinations
Hmm.
where, okay, if my situation is such that I have to get about a degree in biological sciences, what can I do with biological sciences that will still prepare me and make me a stronger candidate if I should apply for a post baccalaureate track,
Yeah.
right? And still feed the family and or publish and or start your company, solve problems. At the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is to make Ghana, make Africa, make the world a better place,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And maybe you get to do that as a doctor at a little older age, like I was and I am. But I do not regret anything that I did along those years, because I think it was really the purpose. What am I going to do with pharmacy degree? And I
Hmm.
still, like you, you mentioned that I came to love pharmacy so much that still I have like business, concepts that I'm trying to build together with some of my pharmacy
Mm-hmm.
colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Um,
So that that's the framework there. But for
yeah.
those especially who want to come to the US or look at outside of their home countries, really you've got to start thinking about a global strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That.
Data. Mhm. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. And you perfectly narrated it. You need to know what to do, and then you have to figure out what it takes to get there, right? So as early as possible, senior high school level, or uh, right after senior high school, you need to decide where you want to go, or you need to
Mhm.
have an idea, a broad idea. You don't have to be super specific,
Mhm.
but at least you should have a general idea that, oh, I want to be in the clinical sciences, or I want to be in the hardcore sciences. Then you can take a path, and then uh, make sure that every step that you're taking is carved, or is carving your way towards that destination. But ultimately, is not as easy as it seems, because Charlie, we all experience it. Um, the expectations, the too much schooling and all those things comes to play. So if you can structure your path, um, even you know do your postgraduate medical school in Ghana or elsewhere before you journey into the diaspora, that is also a good option. Yeah. So I mean, Tell this conversation can go on for several hours, because there are so many interesting things to talk about. But before I let you go, I want you to briefly describe your experience in Yale during your residency. For our viewers, I know some of our viewers are colleagues from my own cohort of medical school, and other medical students are watching. How was your experience like as a resident, Yale?
Yeah. So it was formative. That's what I'll say.
Hmm.
It was fulfilling. It was exciting, and I think I would probably do that in comparison or together with that the experience at Harvard.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right, both places, as you all can tell, and any medical school, I tell people this, that the chance that I had to go to Harvard and Yale were just bonuses. They are bonuses. I do not claim, entitlement to any of those,
Hmm.
right? But I know and I've come to understand that I deserved any and all of those places.
Exactly.
Because I had what it takes, and I still have what it takes to produce Harvard level work, to think like a Harvard alumni. So I say this, Harvard alumni, we say, I am Harvard, right? I too am Harvard,
Hmm.
like this as a boy, right? And I could never have imagined. So the experiences I had at Harvard really can be the experience that you have in any university. But I think what was unique there was that there is so much resources. Like there are so many ways to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So many different people with different backgrounds and interests to bring into your networks to contribute to,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so I we our group at Harvard was the first to start a very short preclinical curriculum. So it was like a year, almost a year and a half preclinical before you jump into clinical work. So yeah, you can imagine that it was very intense. And by this time I was married. Almost at the end of my second year when I started clinical rotations, I had a baby. Right. So my experience was not the typical like traditional pre-med, not
Yeah.
the traditional, medical student, and certainly not the traditional Harvard medical student.
Hmm.
We talked about. But I still felt like I too was Harvard, and I still feel like that, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Are there ways I would have changed it or things that I would do differently? Yes. And those are the things that actually inspire me now to try to build opportunities for people like me to see themselves at Harvard, to see themselves at Yale. And when they are there, more importantly, to feel included, to create opportunities for them, for people behind them, and say, hey, oh, I just saw that you just came in first year, second year. How's it going? These are the resources I've been using. Have you looked at scholarships? Have you looked at research opportunities? So for me, it's been more so creating this intergenerational resource network
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
if I have research that I can actually bring on a medical student who is interested in, or I have some other opportunity that I can collaborate on, I'm doing that, and that's what I think I learned at Harvard. Probably I should even give this shout out because I went through Harvard, and I keep saying this for 4 years, and I don't know that I felt that I had like a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
like someone who would just like reach out with opportunity, bring you to where they're going and everything. I didn't have that until like I had a rough time in my third year to fourth year with a lot of personal issues there, right? And as I decided that, hey, I'm going to take a fifth year, right? And what am I going to do with this fifth year? God placed an opportunity on my lap. And that fifth year, I think, defined my Harvard experience in a very positive way.
Yeah.
I found a mentor, like Dr. Raymond Chang, who, right, by this time was the president of the American Association for the Study of Liver Diseases. And he pretty much met me one day. I showed interest in his research, and he's like, wow, this is the path you've traveled. I can tell you would take anything and run with it. And gave me a fellowship into NIH, a pre-doctoral fellowship
Yeah.
that helped pay me throughout the fifth year. With that research, now I know that I'm still going to be doing liver, like research related to liver and
Yeah.
metabolic diseases,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even as a primary care doctor. And I think that's the thing where I realized that even as a first generation, low income, black, African American, whatever you call it, and I identify myself as such, at Harvard, you can feel like a fish, small fish in that big ocean,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because everybody can assume that you're smart enough, you are, gifted enough, you're everything enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
And you can still feel like, no, it's not working, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I think wherever you find yourself, just be intentional and know that, hey, a lot of people are struggling in ways that you're struggling, but many of those people are tapping into resources. So you have to figure
You
out
have
what
to
are the
use every result.
resources that
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would also be the same experience at Yale. At Yale, I think what was the difference for me was Yale felt much more natural as a place to me. They're very academic, and I would say this that I did not know too much about Yale until I did residency. Please don't tell anybody. But no, seriously, because like I did not come thinking I'm going to go to Harvard, going to go to Yale.
Yeah.
I came like I'm going to take this second shot and become a doctor. In the US, yes, a bonus. Harvard, yes, a bonus. Yale, oh, another bonus. And then I came and realized that wait, there were more people who looked like me, more people even like in my program who were from other countries, either as international medical graduates initially and have become faculty. Um, People who don't look like me but share very similar first
Yeah.
generation and other stories like
Yeah.
me, and they were interested in projects that I would bring up. They've been interested in collaborating, and more naturally also, I found faculty people that I feel okay crying in front of them. I have a faculty that I joke with her. I'm like, oh man, I had to cry before you during my first week of intern year, and then my last month of residency. And I don't know that I would have found such a mentor anywhere else. And they still keep me around them. So
Yeah.
hey, it's been great. Yeah.
You can only be grateful. The
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's one trivia question that I want to ask.
Mm.
Having gone through the system in Ghana as a school of, or as a pharmacist, or as a pharmacy student, and coming all the way to Harvard to do medicine, and doing really well. Do you feel medical school is only reserved for people with extraordinary talents, or it's like for those who are really dedicated and have the passion for it? I say this because I know oftentimes, um, especially in Ghana, where resources are limited, so programs are forced to pick only a selected few, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of students end up going to other tracks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do you do do you feel that medicine, it's a field that is for people with special abilities, as somebody puts it, or it's for the um average guy who is serious in school, our own colleagues who ended up in, for example, pharmacy or nursing or biochemistry? All of them could have done medicine. So do you think that it's for you have to be special in order to be able to go through that training?
Hmm. Wow, I feel like this is a setup. And you called it a trivia, man.
Yeah, I
So
want prepare to come out. I want.
like anybody from my colleagues in pharmacy came to you and said, "Hey, ask him whether or not he still like loves pharmacy." But no, seriously, it's a very
Yeah.
it's a very important question. But I think my answer, and maybe first let me clarify from you, what do you mean, or can you give me some examples when you say extraordinary?
Yeah. So okay, so let me just break it this way. When I say extraordinary, I mean that anybody, for example, most people who didn't get into medical school is because they they wouldn't be able to succeed in medical school, right? I don't know. So there was this issue that came up some time ago in Ghana, where there was an incident, and one person told the other, uh, you can't be a doctor. That is why you're a nurse, or something like that. And it brought a lot of arguments that people were saying, some of us could have become doctors, but we didn't have the chance.
Yeah.
We didn't have the slot. We did science, we did very well, but you know, uh, we went for interview, we were not picked, so we ended up in maybe school of nursing, biochemistry, but we could have done medicine if we were
Mm.
given the opportunity. So that is my question. Do you think like a lot of people could have become doctors if we truly had the resources?
Mm. Mhm. All right. So then I think the assumption we're making is if we had limitless resources or like enough resources to take anyone who was interested and applied to
Hmm.
medicine, right? Do we think that those all those people, because they were interested, driven, and had a reason or a purpose for picking medicine,
And had a
that
decent and had a decent like a
had a
decent
decent
grade? Yeah.
grade,
Hmm.
right? That they could and would have succeeded? Yes, right. Um, and so what has made medicine so special and made it so competitive, right? I don't think it's because the ordinary person, if there's even something called
Hmm.
ordinary person,
Yeah.
that's right. I don't think it's because the ordinary person cannot learn the kinds of things you learn to become a doctor,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
In very similar ways, if you wanted to play a piano and you gave yourself that determination, you would
You would
play a
be.
piano. Maybe you're not going to become Mozart or Handel, right? But you would play the piano the way you have dreamt and really apply yourself to do. And we're going to need musicians like that, and we're going to need Mozarts, we're going to need Handels, right? And that is my framework around building a more like a workforce that actually matches the need in our community.
Yeah.
think we both agree that because there is limited resources, and the reasons for those we can reserve for another talk,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But I do believe that one, every kid, especially like me, who had no idea what medicine was, right? And it wasn't that I could do medicine because I knew I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was I wanted to. And there was this drive, right, for a young boy like me who lost their mom, like at age 11, and trying to figure out this piece of why don't we have enough people, enough of these doctors?
Yeah,
Can I be that doctor at some point, right? And I think that's what it takes for everything that any young person sets their mind to do. So that piece, right? That is extraordinary enough for someone to want to do something and stick with it with consistency. I think there's this guy, is it Justin Walsh, on LinkedIn that I follow, and his thing was that, yeah, like you can have ideas, you can even pilot things. The biggest piece about becoming successful and being extraordinary is consistency. So
yeah,
to be
yeah.
consistent, determined, and focused, I think anybody who has that kind of drive will be and can be a successful physician, right?
Exactly.
It's going to take different resources. Even when we think we have enough resources at a place like Harvard, right? There are people like me who still like fail the shelf exam. And I don't want us to lose that fact
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not a human. I'm not extraordinary for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But I still believe and deserved Harvard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I came to learn, and even at Yale, what I came to learn and I'm learning is, huh, I learn differently. I learn better teaching myself. I do things better from the other
Mm-hmm.
typical way. So if only that is the layer of resource that I get when I'm in medical school, right? And our medical schools are actually very well informed and attuned to that kind of need for every student they pick. All of those students would succeed. I want to, pretty end this talk with one or couple of things. Is that I tell people the hardest thing about becoming a doctor is actually getting into the medical school itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People say it's harder, especially in the US here. It's harder to fail out of medical school, right? Once you're in, than to actually get in,
Than to get in. Yeah. And I
because
think it's the same. It's the same in most places. Getting in is the most difficult, but once you get in, you do whatever it takes to get out. Yeah, so we have a couple of questions. We're not able to do some answer some of these questions whilst we were on. But the one question from let me see. This is from Facebook. Testimony says Kofi to the world. Um, oh God! Somebody says interested. George Mante says interesting Kofi story. Uh, Thanks for that angle. Um, yeah. So I think one question that we need to respond to is that somebody wants to know how did Dr. Japon get to the US after pharmacy school in Ghana?
yeah. So I came in here with a work exchange program,
Mm-hmm.
right? That allowed me multiple entry, and decided to stay on and take on the academic opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Um, and the same person is asking if you had to do GRE at some point.
I did. I did GRE. I took TOEFL as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, guys, there are a lot of tests you have to take. Um, and I mean, those days it was. These days for graduate school they've scrapped a couple of them, but there are still some tests that you really have to do.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so somebody is saying, can you get a chance to medical school if you are not a citizen? or a
Hmm.
green card holder?
Yes, you
Mm.
can. That path is harder for practical reasons, but there are people who are able to do it because they can afford the cost
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of medical school. Because right, most of us go to medical school on student loans and or some forms of combinations of that and scholarships.
Yeah.
So if you are like an F status student, purely student visa, then um, you really have to be a very, very, I hate to use the word attractive candidate, right? But also then demonstrate that you can afford that the
The
cost of
fees.
the
Mm-hmm.
fees. But truly, there are actually people who could not afford it and were able to demonstrate that need, both at Harvard and I think Yale is probably the most generous and most like inclusive from that end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I learned it and I'm like, wait, why didn't I even apply to Yale? Yeah, right. So yeah, like if you ace the exams, if you are doing amazing stuff and you're like you want to take that shot, I will encourage you because
Yeah.
there's a lot of these schools are actually the numbers are small, but proportionally they would
They'll
strongly consider
consider.
a
Okay.
candidate who is ready for all intents and purposes.
All right. Somebody says is watching from Uganda. Thank you for your ins- inspiration. Um, somebody wants to know about uh, the Higher Ground Initiative.
Hmm,
I don't know
right.
if we didn't have time to talk about it, but somebody says, can you tell us about Higher Grounds Initiative and how can medical students from Ghana benefit from this initiative?
Hmm. So yeah, I just
So
spoke
I
to
think,
someone. So
yeah,
actually,
Clifford is a medical student in Ken UST,
oh,
I
I
believe.
see.
Yes.
Well, thanks for your question. So, Clifford, Higher Ground is my consultancy, and it has two things. The one part is working on developing workforce and educational initiatives like this, to coach and mentor people like us who want to take a shot, right? And so like we talked about, we can coach folks with, hey, these are some of the courses you should consider, but more importantly, these are some trainings that can get you, say, a clinical experience in the US, right? Or even while you're in Ghana, if we have gigs out there in Ghana, and there's something in the pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
in our pipeline, right? We can then bring you on board and then provide opportunities for you to apply your clinical training, craft research opportunities for you, really just help you build your portfolio
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
become a strong candidate. So the big thing, and if you allow me, Banda, to even announce here, is that one of my biggest commitments now, I just graduated residency like a week or two ago. One of my biggest commitments is actually a program that I call Step Up. It's called Service Learning Training and Enrichment programs
Mm-hmm.
for people who are underrepresented, underrecognized in medicine and healthcare.
Right.
And so, I design trainings in in areas of clinical practice that I know that people can get those jobs in, right? Like medical scribes, like interpreters, right? Like research assistants, like patient advocates, right? We design trainings for you and then work with partners who are interested in recruiting you either for a paid apprenticeship for a year or so, right? So that then, because we work together for that long, then I can certainly say, hey, this is a strong candidate for this opportunity if you needed me to support you in that sense.
Yeah.
But that's part of the higher ground framework. And the other part is really mine. My brain can stop thinking about problems and solutions, so I do research in like
Mm-hmm.
liver diseases, genes, and then data analytical stuff on like medical students who do not reapply, and like workforce development. I put all that into what I call an innovation studio, so that ideas that come that look like, oh, this could be a medical device, or this could be a test. I try to figure it out and then find people who have the skill set, take
Yeah.
it and run with it as a research or as a venture that can actually help both you and I earn some professional value from it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what higher ground is about. It's really meant to support um, healthcare STEM careers, and also help us really use what I call entrepreneurial scholarship. That what we study, what we research, doesn't just become publications, that we can actually start to build value, socioeconomically viable ventures from it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really exciting. Yeah, so folks, I think we've spent more than we allocated. We are at 1 hour 26 minutes. We are rounded up. Thanks for joining in. Hopefully, you learned something. You got inspired from this story. If you're new to the Scholars Program, uh, check out our channel on YouTube, Dr. Banda Khalifa. Subscribe and share with your friends. Ultimately, you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy with the end goal in sight. Dr. Japon, before we let you go, your last words.
Oh, last words. I haven't left yet. I'm still here, guys. But yeah, for this moment, Banda, I really appreciate you reaching out and giving me this opportunity to spend time with you and share my story. um, I want to just assure everyone that like my story is only one. There are multiple people who
Yeah.
have also taken different paths
Mm-hmm.
and succeeded, right? What I tell everyone, especially younger folks, when you ask me, is let's be proactive. Let's take our own initiative because the opportunities are there. They don't necessarily come to you, and even when they come, they're gonna come to 1,000 other people, and it's only the person who is prepared, right? Prepared because they've studied hard, prepared because they've really used their time appropriately, to build skill sets that they can actually describe and show,
Yeah.
right? It's those people who actually then get the opportunity that some people call luck. And I think, let's make ourselves a little bit lucky. Um, believing who we believe in, God, and knowing that yes, those opportunities will come. One of my mentors, Dr. Raymond Chang, is use this analogy like you got to always have your antenna up.
Mm-hmm.
Have your antenna up to say, hey, I'm going to take a chance to actually reach out to this person who just talked to Banda, to Agyapong, George, to this other person who sent that message on this chat because it was interesting how they asked that question. That's how I've been making connections and
Yeah.
learning, right? And the last piece is this, especially for those who are in Ghana, other resource limited areas, who might excuse themselves like, I don't have data, I don't have data. Please, I tell my own sisters and cousins, I'm like, if you have $1 to buy data to scroll through Facebook and WhatsApp, please reserve 50% of that to go to YouTube and learn a skill, for instance.
Yeah.
Go come to an event like this and learn a skill,
Mhm.
network. Go to LinkedIn and get build a network, for
Yeah.
instance, because that's an investment that's going to pay off big
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something we don't have. And it's sad, especially our college students. Let us educate ourselves because the system we have in Ghana and other places now, even in the US, it's not necessarily educating us.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much just other like commodities. And if you don't take care, like you
Yeah.
pay and then you finish and try to bring your paper around like, hey, I just have this Harvard degree. Can you employ me? And people will say, hey, what value are you bringing?
What can you do?
Yeah. So please, and that's something I would really want to explore and keep talking about over time, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate all of you.
Yeah. Yeah. We also appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on to share your story. We are all inspired, and I'm sure we will continue our conversation on LinkedIn.
Mm,
Thank you so much, Dr. Japon.
thank you. Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
wonderful day.
Yes.
Bye bye. So, guys, as you can tell, this has been an incredibly inspiring story. Someone, you know, started from uh, Kofiase a name that I've never heard before. I thought I was from a village, but this is a whole different level. But he never gave up. He came all the way through thick and thin, through all the obstacles. Um, did a lot of side hustles, some work that you wouldn't even think about. 7-Eleven, worked at CVS, worked at a couple of places that you wouldn't even imagine, and eventually got his dream come true. So never give up, have a plan, stay consistent, and step by step, you would also get to your destination. I'm your host, Dr. Mada Khalifa. See you hopefully next week, where I'll be engaging Professor Emily Gelly, who is like a trailblazer in the field of public health, the one who designed or who created the famous contact tracing course during the COVID-19 uh, uh, pandemic. So thank you everybody for joining me. Until next time, bye bye.
Hello everyone, my name is Cornelius Nomeshi. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana. I completed my MPA degree at the Harvard Yale School of Public Health this past summer. Last year, during my application process, I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Banda Khalifa, who is a friend and a senior colleague. Dr. Banda's knowledge and experience of the graduate application process made it easier to write an outstanding personal statement, also aim for the right test course and finding the right people to write recommendation letters for me. He also gave me a really good insight about the funding landscape available for me for my education. I was able to get admission into most of the top schools that I applied for, including Johns Hopkins, Columbia University, Boston University, and then Harvard University. Yeah, so if you are actually looking to advance your studies and you're looking for a good and friendly coach, I'll recommend no other person than Dr. Banda.
Hi, my name is Dr. Banda Khalifa. I'm a physician and a current PhD student at the world's #1 School of Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. I also earned a dual Master of Public Health, a Master of Business Administration on a fully funded SOMA Scholarship here at the Bloomberg School after gaining admission to Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the rest of the top schools. So, tell a friend to also tell a friend. Come along with me by subscribing to this channel as I share all the techniques and strategies for putting together a strong application package and hear from experiences from some of the most successful international scholars. I'll also invite program directors, admission committee members to share insights into what it takes to get into their program. have realized the importance of mainstream mentoring. That is the reason why I am launching this YouTube channel, to reach as many people as possible in order to provide authentic information on everything graduate school and
Doctor from Ghana and an incoming dual MPH MBA student of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of